The movie starts in a motel. Roy Tomlin and his childhood friend, State Trooper Lucas, are watching the news of an Amber Alert for an 8-year-old boy named Alton Meyer, who's been abducted by Roy Tomlin from his home in Texas. Meanwhile, the boy reads a comic book on the floor while they pack everything and leave the motel at night. But they get spotted by a woman next door, and she reports them to the police. Lucas drives the car with high speed, along with Roy and Alton on the back seat, reading with a flashlight and listening to the police radio. Just then, they discover that the police find out their location, and they're coming their way, so Lucas puts on a night vision goggle and turns off the car light, driving in the dark with a high taking speed. The scene cuts to a religious cult leader, Pastor Calvin Meyer in rural Texas, who's watching the news and ordering his 2 parishioners to find the boy within 4 days. Then he goes into the church with full people waiting to be preached, so he starts preaching with a date of March 17, 2011, and the people start stating multiple numbers. Meanwhile, FBI agents surrounding the ranch get inside the church to search the premises and detain all members of the ranch for investigation of Alton Meyer. Elsewhere, Lucas is driving the car fast, so Roy tells him to slow down since they lost the police then. He takes off the night vision goggles and tries to put it down while turning the car lights on. They nearly miss a car crash, but another car comes from the other way and still hits them. To rescue the person in the car, Lucas runs immediately and tries to help the woman inside, but she couldn't respond. Soon after, a police car comes and Lucas shouts to the officer to call for help. The officer notices their car and tries to call for backup, so Roy and Lucas pull a gun on him to escape. However, the officer attempts to reach for his gun, and then Lucas shoots him and calls for help through his radio, then leaves. Watching this from the car, Alton feels frightened, and Roy tries to calm him down. Suggesting to continue reading his comic book, Alton puts on his goggles to read his comic book, while listening to Roy, who tells Lucas that he did the right thing by shooting the officer, since Alton is the priority. Meanwhile, members of the ranch are obligated to fill a form of how they're involved with an 8-year-old boy named Alton Meyer, and get interrogated one by an FBI agent. The first person to be investigated is Pastor Calvin Meyer. When Agent Miller starts his question, NSA communication analyst Paul Sevier interrupts them and takes over the interrogation, and then asks Calvin how many numbers sent via encoded satellite transmissions that made their way to his church and known sensitive government information. So Calvin tells them the numbers, and the information comes up from the boy Alton Meyer, his adopted son. Alton grew up in the ranch with the members of the church, taking care of him along with his biological father, Roy Tomlin. Just then, we learn that Roy is trying to protect him from the government and the cult, so that he didn't exactly abduct him, but rather he's trying to save his son's life. Calvin adds that Alton speaks numbers, so they write it down in scriptures, since it's the Lord's way of communication. He also speaks different languages and languages that are unknown. The NSA analyst, Paul Sevier, asks the significance of Friday, March 6th, and Calvin replies with a smile on his face, telling them they have no idea what they're up against. The scene cuts to Roy, Lucas, and Alton in a car, getting inside a man's garage. Alton, who is a former ranch member, provides them with clothing and a drink. Later, Roy puts Alton to bed and gives him headphones. Then he goes to the living room to watch the news. Later that night, we see Roy exhausted with everything around him, and Alton eagerly talks about the research that he's done and the number of coordinates Alton gave them. Alton hands Roy a map of the setting where Alton is supposed to go on Friday, March 6th, but he couldn't understand the reason so far. As he explains more, Roy turns him down, saying that he's tired. The next morning, Roy wakes up to what seems like an earthquake. Roy and Lucas run to Alton right away, and when they break down to Alton's room, they find him linked to Alden by a blinding beam of light from his eyes to Alden's eyes. So Roy knocks Alden on the head and covers Alton from the broken wall of sunlight exposure, which he's really sensitive to. On the other hand, the ranch members are still being investigated by Paul, and one of the members tells him that when Alton's exposed to sunlight, things get broken, cars get shut down, and so they put him to sleep in the daytime and wake him at night. That's the reason for their nighttime services. Then, Paul asks her about Alton's birth mother, and she replies that his mom abandons him, fearing of his power as he gets older. Next, Paul asks another member why Friday, March 6th is very important, and he answers it's the Day of Judgment. He also questions another member about March 6th, and she tells him Alton is their savior, so they will be saved if Alton is with them. After getting interrogated by the FBI, the ranch members return to their home, and the pastor's parishioners get their gun and leave to catch the boy. The scene cuts to Alton looking weak and sick after the incident. As Lucas gets in the car with Alton, Roy goes to Alden and points a gun at him since he knows where they're heading. At night, we see the trio in Alden's van. Roy drives the van, and Alton reads comic books in the back seat as usual. Lucas brings his concerns to Roy about the boy being weaker, but Roy disregards Lucas's concern. Afterward, Alton starts talking in Spanish. Out of nowhere, Roy smiles, telling Lucas to turn on the radio and search the station. Then, he finds the one that Alton is speaking to. Lucas is amazed with his abilities. After a while, they stop for gas, and Lucas goes into the store to get something for the ride, and Roy goes to a payphone, telling Alton not to get out of the car. As Roy talks with some woman on the phone, Alton feels something and gets out of the car, staring into the sky. A woman suspiciously observes him and tries to take off the goggles. Seeing this, Roy and Lucas run and stop her before she takes it off. Then, Roy yells at Alton for getting out of the car. Alton apologizes in tears, pointing to the sky. As a rain of satellite debris crashes on the way to the gas station, Roy gets Alton in the car and drives off with Lucas. Later, Alton starts bleeding from his nose and ears and becomes significantly weaker. Next, we see a woman waiting for someone outside of her house, and Alton gets out of the car and runs towards her. The woman is Alton's birth mother, Sarah Tomlin. She hugs and kisses him with overjoy while they're getting inside. Later that night, when Alton plays with a puzzle, Sarah and Roy watch their son and comfort each other. The following morning, Sarah puts Alton to sleep and has a talk with Roy and Lucas on the corridor about his condition, which Roy thinks is getting better soon, but Lucas suggests that they should take him to a hospital immediately. Roy insists on taking him to the place where Alton states to be on Friday, March 6th. Elsewhere, the cult's members go to Sarah's mother's house to track them. Meanwhile, NSA analysts are investigating the satellite debris crash around the gas station. That evening, Sarah, Roy, Lucas, and Alton start their journey to the mysterious place that Alton tells them about, and Sarah asks Alton what happened at the gas station. He realizes the police were tracking his movements, so he destroyed their satellite. Later, the cult members search Sarah's home for clues to find Alton. On the other hand, Alton starts to panic and can't breathe. Sarah manages to calm him down. Soon after, his eyes start glowing and he becomes weak. Seeing him like this, Lucas insists on taking him to a hospital, but Roy and Lucas get into a fight. Meanwhile, Alton discovers that the FBI are on their way with a helicopter and suggests that Sarah and Lucas go with the car. Meanwhile, Roy and him have to go through the woods. After they ran for a while, they found a swamp and rested. Alton becomes even weaker and more sick. He convinces Roy to wake him up at sunset in the morning. At the office, Paul figures out the numbers and discovers where they're heading. Meanwhile, the cult members go to Alden's home to get an answer. Sarah and Lucas get into a motel and talk about Roy being a brave dad, while Lucas sticks the windows with cardboard. The next morning, Roy takes Alton into the light, fearing that he's going to die. Just then, the earth starts shaking, and Roy covers Alton when his eyes glow. But the earth starts cracking and a huge dome of light surrounds them. Later that day, Roy and Alton go to the motel where Sarah and Lucas are waiting for them. They're shaken with surprise when they see Alton in the daytime exposed to the sun, and astonishingly, he looks better, like something miraculously happened to him. Alton sits them down and explains that there's a world above the earth, and he's from that world, and the day March 6th is so important because he has to go to a place where he belongs. Then he shows them his eyes and hands. They start glowing, and he tells them. The world he saw is full of people like him. Roy confirms that they saw the hidden world for seconds, and it healed Alton. Even though her son is well, Sarah is very worried, thinking about losing him forever. And she tells Roy about her concern, but he silently packs his clothes without saying anything. When they exit the motel, Lucas and Roy get shot by Calvin's trackers, and they get tied up. Then they go inside and tie Sarah to the shower, and take Alton, covering his eyes with a pillowcase. Soon after, Sarah breaks the handle and frees Lucas and Roy. They take off in a hurry, and Roy drives fast. They're forced to be in lines of traffic with the rest of cars by the police. While driving in line, they observe the abductor's car being captured by the police, and their son is taken by the government. That night, Lucas is trying to figure out which government bureau took Alton, but Roy feels hopeless and tells him to stop, since Alton is the only thing he believed in, and now he's gone. There's nothing he can do about it. The scene cuts to agents from different organizations going into a room where Alton is seen, and a woman, who's a childhood development counselor, starts talking to Alton through a microphone in the other room, which is full of cameras. She asks him about the crash at the gas station, but Alton requests to talk to a man called Paul Sevier, who's the lead operation analyst at NSA, which surprises Paul since he just got the position of the lead operation analyst. Afterwards, Alton demands only to talk to Paul. Once everyone gets out, Alton freezes the cameras and shows Paul what he can do, explaining that he's from another world, which convinces Paul to take him to his father. The compound gets a power outage until they get out of the area. The following day, Paul takes Alton to his parents and warns them that the police know where they're going, so there's a 5-mile security perimeter around the location. Paul asks if he can go with them, which they refuse. Then he handcuffs himself and waits till someone arrives to rescue him. On their way, Roy puts a bulletproof vest on Alton, and they exchange their goodbye talk. The trio hug each other, which catches Lucas's eyes, feeling heartbroken. Roy drives through a roadblock inside the perimeter of the army with the help of Alton. Since the army thought they'd fire, it was unexpected to just pass through, so the army scrambles to chase them. As they speed away, Alton tells them to stop the car, and he gives his father a goodbye and runs with Sarah through the woods. Roy and Lucas lead the army, while Alton and Sarah reach the edge of the swamp, and with Alton's eyes and hands glowing, the earth starts to shake, and the dome of light appears, engulfing much of Florida with a futuristic, parallel world structure. Everyone in Florida is astounded with this, and the other beings of the world appear and surround Alton, who smiles at his mom, and the dome of light disappearing, taking Alton with it. Roy and Lucas speed the car with the army chasing them, and the car crashes, leading to their arrest. We see Lucas is interviewed by an FBI agent, who's unhappy with his answers. Then, Paul Sevier enters and interviews him. With Lucas being the only one knowing what he did for them, he watches the guards. The scene cuts to Sarah cutting her hair braid in a local gas station and walking her past life behind her. The movie ends with Roy being incarcerated and guarded. While he watches the sunrise, his eyes faintly glow in the same way as Alton's eyes do. Are you ready to binge more movie recaps? Make sure you click that video that's on screen now. Grab your snacks and make sure to stay cozy, because this next one, oh, you are gonna love it. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next movie recap.